relational model constraints and relational database schemas. Okay, here we have mainly three types of constraints. We have mainly, is any problem, students? Okay, we have three types of constraints here. First one is inherent model based or implicit constraint. Second one is schema based or explicit constraint. And third one is application based or semantic constraint or business rules. Okay, one second, students. Okay, so here in first under first type into inherent model based or implicit constraints. So constraints that are inherent to the data model. So we know that in order to describe the schema, in order to uh, describe the schema, we will use data definition languages. Means using data definition, we have seen different types of languages, right? Data definition, data manipulation languages and all. Okay, so data definition language will be used by the database administrator, who will use that by using that language he'll describe the database. Okay, so that the if he is using any constraint while describing the database, then it is called as inherent model based or implicit constraint. Constraint, you know, students, constraint means conditions. Uh, when we have any relation, then it has to hold or it has to obey some of the conditions, because otherwise it will not be valid relation, right? Okay, uh, for example, many times I have told, if we have student database, in that we need to have one unique identifier, right? Otherwise it is not no, it is no longer a valid relation, because two students can have the same name. That time it is difficult to fetch the data. Suppose in your class, yeah, two Sushmita are there, right? So if I want to fetch the data, if it's the information regarding Sushmita, then if I don't have any unique identifier in the relation, then it will be difficult for me to fetch the data, because database will get, that application will get confused which one to choose, because I will give the name as Sushmita, two Sushmita will be there in the database. So same means it has to obey or it has to follow some conditions. So many types of conditions are there. First one is inherent model, that will be, that is like implicit constraints. When we when a database administrator write the description schema, he will use those constraints. That is called as inherent model based or implicit constraints. So typically by specifying them in the DDL, data definition language. One second, students, someone wants to join actually. Yeah. Okay, second one is schema based or explicit constraint. So constraints that are directly expressed in schemas of the data model. So directly expressed means it is explicit, right? So it is schema based or explicit constraints. These are main three categories. After this we are going to discuss the different types of constraints. Okay, so then application based or it is like in different level we have different types of constraints. We know that we have three different levels in a three schema architecture, right? uh, Conceptual schema, in physical, then external, right? So in each level we will have different types of constraints, different types of conditions we need to follow. Okay, so that is why it is categorized into three different categories. Okay, application based or semantic constraint or business rules. So this is nothing but constraints that cannot be directly expressed in schemas of the data model, and hence must be expressed and enforced by the application program. Some conditions this application program has to follow in order to fetch the data or access the data. So such type of constraint we will call it as application based or semantic constraint. Okay, so three types of relational model constraints we have. Okay, So after this, here we have the different types here, constraints in the relational model. So first one is domain constraints. You know that what is domain, students? In last class we have discussed domain is nothing but one value given for a attribute, right? If Pratiksha, if I give for student name, then Pratiksha is one of the domain. Okay, if I give domain of student name, then it will give the list of students name. Okay, suppose in your class your 65 students are there or 64 students are there. Okay, if I give domain of student name from this one student database, then it will give 64 students name. Okay, if just a domain means that particular domain which we want to fetch, it can be Pratiksha or Prashanti or Zahir, like that. One value, it is one value given for particular attribute. Okay, so if you want to put some condition on that domain, then it will be called as domain constraint. Okay, because we need to follow that. For example, yeah, many times I have told we have grade in your student database. So grade can have the alphabets. It can take the value as from A to F. It can take. After that, it is not valid input, right? If I give Z as grade, it is not valid. If I give X as grade, it's not valid. Okay, according to the whatever the rules we have for grading system, so it is not valid. So that is one constraint for domain, right? Because I can give only these values for that particular. Then if I give and for marks I can give from 1 to 100, right? It is between 1 to 100. If it is a maximum value is 100, I cannot give more than 100, right? So that is one constraint. So these are all the constraint. I hope you are understanding, students. So these are all the constraints given for, or we are putting on the domains. Okay, so that type of constraints are called as domain constraints. Then we have key constraints and constraints on null values. Okay, key constraints, we have four different types of keys that we will discuss later. So key means nothing but which will uniquely identify the instance of a relation, any person or any employee or any car. Who the what will identify uniquely identify the student, their USN. Employee ID will uniquely identify employees. Or car, this one number, registration number will uniquely identify the car, right? So that is nothing but key. So under key also we have many types, but generally we will call it as key. So for that also we will have some constraints. For example, key attribute cannot have identical values, right? I cannot give same USN for two students, right? Or I cannot give same employee ID for two different employees. It is not possible. So there is constraint. What students know what is constraint? While creating the database, first we will describe that, or we will write the schema of that, description of that database we will write. Then some of the constraints also we will write. This domain will have this value only, this type of value only, or something like that. Okay, some of the conditions we will put. Then entity integrity constraints. Okay, then referential integrity constraints, this we will see with the example. Okay, so first one is domain constraints. In detail we will see now what is domain constraint. Okay, so these constraints specify that within each tuple, the value of each attribute A must be an atomic value from the domain of A. Means the each value should be an atomic value. Okay, so that atomic means indivisible. Then for domain constraints we can put the constraints on data types also, right? If we want to insert a numeric data, then it should be of numerical data type. If we want to put the insert the date, then it should be of date data type. Okay, like that, floating point, whatever it is. So this is also one constraint. So what they are telling is the data types associated with domains typically include standard numeric data types for integer, such as short integer, and long integer, okay, and real numbers for float and double precision float. So we can have integers and real numbers for numerical data types. Then we can have characters, means if you want to give the grade, it is single character, or booleans, yes or no. uh, if I want to store the attribute like whether student got passed or failed, okay, whether student got passed, it is the name of that column or attribute. Then I can give yes or no, or true or false, right? So this is like, that is like boolean. We can have boolean value also. So fixed length strings also we can have. Then variable strings are also available. Fixed length strings means for student name or college name and all we can give. Then variable length strings are also available as a date. We can give the date. This comes under variable length strings. Then time we can put, okay, if we have any database in which we want to store the time, okay. For example, now we are storing your details like in Google Meet attendance we are storing, right? So it will give at what time student had joined, everything it will give the details. So in that we will have an attribute which is of type time, okay. So that is also possible. So other special data types also are available for under for this domain, particular domain, okay. Is it clear, students, or is there any issues? Are you understanding? Is it clear, students? Okay. Okay, next one is we will see key constraints and constraints on null values. So here, this looks like something confusing. Here we have four types of keys, but we'll see the definitions of those. But when we write SQL queries, when we use SQL structured query language in order to write the queries, that time you'll clearly understand, okay, what is what are these four different types of keys, okay. So because you have not practically experienced it, that these whatever the tables are there, okay, you have not done any manipulation on those tables. Or when you do the practicals, means when you do the experiments on this using SQL, then you will clearly understand. But now you try to understand this, whatever the definition. By seeing the definition you should understand, okay. So example also I will give, but if you will better understand when you do it practically, okay. When I start this SQL queries, it is part of this module only. That time I will demonstrate that, okay, using the queries I will run the commands, and I will show, okay. Time being, you just understand that how many types are there, what are those, that's it, okay. So first one is super key, okay. Actually here super key and key, they have mentioned that we two different types, but we sometimes, means not always, sometimes we can use these terms alternatively, okay. Because super key is also a key, super key is also a key, but in some conditions it is not same, but in some conditions it is same, okay. Means it is the key is a part of super key, we can say like that, key is a part of super key. So but here we they have mentioned that it is different type, so we will see the definitions first, then try to understand, students, okay. So what is super key? Super key is nothing but it is subset of attributes. Subset, you know, if I have 5 attributes, then if I take 2 attributes out of those 5 attributes, then those 2 attributes will be a subset of that particular attribute set, right? That you know what is subset. Now, so that subset, suppose I have a student database. In that I have USN, student name, and which department, which semester, and what is the marks, okay, in that particular semester. So now I have 5 attributes. I'll repeat: student name, you first is USN, student name, which department is in, and which semester he is studying, and what is the marks he got. Okay, what is the marks he scored in that particular semester. Now if I take USN and student name, it is subset. Now it is subset of attribute. So that USN and student name is a super key. If I take, okay, student name and USN is a super key, means subset of attribute. They are telling what I will denote it using SK. Now where any two distinct tuples T1 and T2 in a relation state R of R, we have the constraint that T1 of SK not equal to T2 of SK. T1 of SK not equal to T2 of SK, means entirely it should not be same. Like now two tuples. Now I will take Pratiksha and Prashanti's information. Pratiksha and Prashanti. So uh, suppose Pratiksha's USN is 4DM 18CS001. Prashanti's USN is 4DM 18CS002. Now in under USN I will have 4DMs 18CS001 and 4DM 18CS002, and under student name I will have Pratiksha and Prashanti. If I take one particular tuple, if I take this Pratiksha's tuple, then it will have 001 and Pratiksha, which is entirely different from 002 and Prashanti, right? Means that is what this says. If you mention any subset as a super key, then tuple of that particular SK means student name and USN. Okay, we call it as super key. Is should not be equal to T2 of SK. Got students? It should not be similar. So that time we can call that the student name and USN together as a super key. They are telling. Got students? I hope it is clear for you. So it is nothing. It is not a single key. Super key is nothing but it will have more than one attribute. It is subset of attribute. Okay. So now, any doubts, students here? Okay, I'll continue. After that, after discussing all the keys, if you get any doubts, please clarify that. Okay. Okay. So next is key. Then key we will call it as refer it using alphabet K. A key K of a relation schema R. I hope now you properly understood what is R, capital R, what is small r, what is A, because while explaining only I told every time I cannot use the relation schema attribute like that. Here we have mentioned, but instead of that I will use R, capital R, small r, capital A, like that I will use. Or for domain I will use D. For set of domain of attribute I'll use the OM of particular attribute, the OM of A. So like that I can use. So you have to remember those terms. Okay. So here what is key now? Just I will read the definition first. Okay. So a key K of a relation schema R is a super key of R. That is what I told. Super key is actually it is single attribute. Okay. Key is single attribute. It is also a super key. Okay, it can be a part of super key of R with the additional property that removing any attribute A from K leaves set of attributes K dash that is not a super key of R anymore. Got students? Now then what is key now? I have given example that USN and student name together I can call it as super key. Okay, USN and student name together I can call it as super key. If I remove any one attribute from that, suppose I remove USN, then it will that whatever the remaining attribute is there, student name, it will no longer be uniquely identify that particular student, because I have removed USN, because the student's name can be similar also. So that time this USN will be a key. Okay, if I remove that, that super key will not be uniquely identify the what a student. Got students now? So super key is a set of two. It is not always two. It can be set of three attributes, set of four attributes, or entire this whatever the attributes are there in the relation. Everything also I can take. Okay, it is not only two, but more than one we will have. Super key means more than one attribute we will have, but in that one key will be there. Okay, if we remove that key, then that super key is of no use. Got students? No, then that super key is of no use. So now I hope you got the difference between super key and key. Next is candidate key. So a relation schema may have more than one key. Okay, in this case, each of the key is called a candidate key. For example, under super for a super key, if I take more than one attribute, then each attribute I will call it as candidate key. Okay, it is part of a key. Candidate means it part of that particular key. Okay, so next is primary key. Next is primary key. So primary key is nothing but it is also a candidate key. Whatever the key we will use in the relation is a candidate key. That you have to remember. So this is the candidate key whose values are used to identify tuples in the relation. The primary key of a relation schema are underlined. Okay. So when we use the underline for any particular attribute, then that will be called as primary key, because here now you will think that then what is the difference between this key and primary key. Okay, because we will have one more key called as foreign key also. So that time you will understand why it is called as primary key, why it is underlined. Okay, so that time you will you will understand that concept. Okay, so time being, you remember that we have four types of keys: super key, candidate key, and primary key. So next is it is for relational databases and relational database schemas. Actually this terms we have already used, but here your relational database schema S is a set of relation schemas. A relational database schema S is nothing but relational database schema is a set of relational schema. S is equal to R1, R2, Rm, and a set of integrity constraints IC. Now, what is this? What is this? What is the meaning of this, students? Now, till now, I was talking about only one relation. I was talking about only one relation, one table I was talking about. Now, the next step is, what if we have more than one table in the database? That also we have discussed already, because putting all the information in one table and getting confused, better we will split the database and keep it separate, right? So that possibilities, one possibility we have discussed, right, students? Are you listening, students? Is there any problem? Okay, so but now I am talking about relational database schema. It is not relational schema, it is relational database schema, means it is S. It can have more than one relational schema. Got, students? One relation schema means it is related to one relation, one table, student. So now student also regarding their academics, one table I can have. Regarding their fees payment, I can have one more table. Okay, so like that I can have many tables. Now if I have more than one table in a database, then each relation schema I will refer it as R1, R2, R3, like that. Then entire set of those schemas I will call it as S, that is relational database schema. Got, students? Now what is R and what is S? S is nothing but set of different relational schemas. Got, students? Till now I was talking about only R. Now one more term came into picture, that is S. S is set of different R's, R1, R2 up to Rm, and a set of integrity constraints. Now, what is integrity constraint, students? One second. Shrestha is joining now. What happened, Shrestha? Rohan, you are joining now. Too late. Ashwin Kumar. Okay, students. So, and the set of integrity constraints means what? Integrity constraint is nothing but when I have more than one table for particular entity, then we need to integrate that because it is related to that particular entity. As just now I told, student database, in student database I can have more than one table. One will keep track of their academics, one will keep track of their fees related things, okay, one will keep track of their achievements, okay, like that I can have many tables. Now I need to integrate that because it is related to one person or one student, right? So that is nothing but integrity constraint. So some of the constraints also, again we will have some of the constraints or conditions on those integrity. Okay, if we want to integrate those relations, then we will have some constraints called as integrity constraints, that we will refer it as IC. Got, students? Then relational database state. In last class we have discussed relational state. Now it is database state. Okay, database state means how many tables are there in the database, what are all the columns are there in that particular database, like that it is. Okay, in previous case it was one table, it was about one table. It is now we are talking about entire database. I hope it is clear for you. So same thing here, relational states DB. How we will indicate that? Using DB. So is equal to R1, R2, Rn. Last class we have discussed R. Now set of different R's. Okay. So such that each Ri is a state of Ri, and such that the Ri relation states satisfy the integrity constraints specified in IC. IC means integrity constraints. So next, a database state that does not obey all the integrity constraints is called an invalid state. Okay, if that particular value, domain value, or any particular tuple, okay, is not obeying the integrity constraints, then that will be considered as invalid state. Okay, if it is satisfying all the conditions, all the constraints, then that particular state we will call it as valid state. State means uh, the status of that particular uh, table at particular time. Okay, means how many rows are there, how many columns are there, like that. Okay, that particular moment, what is the status of that table, so that we will call it as state. Okay, so when it is invalid, when it is valid, if it obeys all the conditions, then it is valid, otherwise it is invalid. The next is entity integrity constraint. It is one of the main type of constraints. We have seen key constraints, domain constraints. Then next one is entity integrity constraints. So entity integrity constraint states that no primary key can be null. Now one more thing. I told that till now, based on whatever I have discussed, you know that primary key cannot have similar values for two different instances, right? But now one more constraint we have, that is primary key cannot be a null value, because we know that primary key will uniquely identify the any particular tuple or instance, right? Now if I don't have any value for that, then what is the meaning of that? I cannot uniquely identify. I know I will I'll not be able to uniquely identify that particular instance. So that one condition, while creating the database only, I will give. Primary key cannot be a null, cannot have the null value. What is null value? We have discussed, students. I hope you remember. Null means if any value is not applicable for that. For example, last time I told, if I want to store the CET ranking of all the students, then sometimes some students will not write CET exam, right? They will admit using the whatever that management quota is there. Okay, they'll get admitted to the college. Now, what I will write for those the columns for that particular students, I will give it as null or not applicable, means no value for that. Okay, no domain for that. Okay, so that time when it is not applicable, I will give null. But if I cannot give for primary key, I cannot give any null value for your USN, because everyone will have USN. If I give null value, then I cannot identify you uniquely, right? So that is the condition they are telling here. So this is because the primary key value is used to identify individual tuples in a relation. So having null values for the primary key implies that we cannot identify some tuples. Okay, so that is what we have discussed. So for example, if two or more tuples had null for their primary keys, we might not be able to distinguish them if we try to reference them from other relations. Okay, so because if you have more than one relation, then if the both the tables are describing about one particular entity, then if we don't have any value for primary key, then we cannot refer that from other relation also. If you don't have USN, okay, in other relation also, how I can integrate using USN only, because I'll clear this first use by giving example, students. Otherwise you have to imagine. Okay, so I'll give example better. Regarding academics, I can have USN, student name, marks of your fifth semester, sorry, fourth semester. That is one table. Your USN, student name, marks of fourth semester. Then one more table I have, different table. Okay, so this is student marks table. The first table, whatever I have told, that is student marks table. The second table, I will have student fees table. Student fees. Now, USN, student name, and what fees pay, what pending amount they have. Okay, or how much fees they have to pay. Okay, what is the pending amount? So now, uh, both the in both the relations, I will have USN, right? Now, if I give null value for USN in one table, then how can I refer from other table? Because I don't have USN here. If I have USN, then I can tally, right? So now 001 is, if 001, who is that? Yeah, Acharya Sushmita from your class, right? So 001, Acharya Sushmita, her marks is something, some marks is there. Then her, I want to see how much the pending amount, fees amount is there. So that time I don't give USN, then how can I refer who is that student from another table? It is not possible. So that is what they are telling in last point. So we might not be able to distinguish them if we try to reference them from other relations. From other relations, we, if we want to refer that this is the student, I want to know the fees status of her that particular student. Then if I don't have USN in my particular table, I cannot refer from other table also. So primary key cannot have null value. That is what the entity integrity constraint says. Okay. So next one is it clear, students? Can I continue? Someone unmute and tell. All are listening, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So next is referential integrity constraints. Referential integrity constraints. Now, if I have two table, that is why I told students when it came, relational database schema came. From that point, it is like we are talking about more than two relations. So this integrity constraint also we are talking about more than two relation. When integrity comes, when we have more than one relation, when more than one table, right? So that key constraint and domain constraint, that we were talking about for particular one relation, it is about one relation. Okay, now whatever the integrity entity integrity constraints and its referential integrity constraints, whatever we are talking about, it is like we are talking about more than one relation. Okay, so referential integrity means the referential integrity constraint is specified between two relations and is used to maintain the consistency among tuples in the two relations. What is consistency, students? Consistency means any value, it should be same in both the tables. We update in the one update that value in one table, it should affect other in other place also, wherever we have the other details about that particular student, or it can be employee also. Okay, so informally we can say that the referential integrity constraint states that a tuple in one relation that refers to another relation must refer to an existing tuple in that relation. So this is one informal definition. So with the example we will see that the department number of employee gives the department number for which each employee works. You know that, okay? Because we have discussed this one company database, right, students? We have discussed company database. We had employee table, we had a project table, then we had this other for example, what we had for employee works for project, and employee manages but manages particular department. Yeah, we had department this one entity, means it is a relation, right? So now if we have d now, if you take d number as the unique identifier in both the relations, then what happens? Its value in every employee tuple must match the d number value of some tuple in the particular one more relation. Okay, so now I have employee and department relation. I have employee and department relation. In employee table also, I will have the department number. Why? Because I have to tell that in which department that particular employee is working. Now I have employee ID, employee name, and in which department he is working, and what are all the project he is handling. That will I will have in which relation? I will have it in employee relation. Now I will have one more relation called department. In department, again I will have department number, students, right? Again I will have department number, that is d number, because the department will be uniquely identified by d number. Okay, in employee also we will have d number, because I have to mention in which department he is working, right? So that is what they are telling. I'll repeat this. So the d number of employee gives the department number for which each employee works. Hence its value in every employee tuple must match the d number value of some tuple in the department relation. Now we will see that scenario. Okay, now I have the employee ID as one, employee name something xyz, and I will give that he is working in department 1. The number of the department is d number is 1, and one more employee called employee ID is 2, and his name is ABC, and he is working in 2, department 2. Now I need to have, when I mention that he is working in 1 and 2, I need to have those values in my department table also. Otherwise it is not valid, right? I will say that he is working in department 1 and he is working in department 2, but if I don't have those department in the department table, then how can I refer that? Is it, students? So that is referential integrity constraint. What is that? Whatever the department number I will give for particular employee should match with the whatever the number is there in the department table. Got, students? If I have in department table, if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, only those values only I can give in employee also. I can give 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I can tell that one employee is working in 1 or 3 or 4, like that. Okay, But I cannot give 6 because I don't have 6 in the department table. Got students. So that is referential integrity constraint. It should match. Whatever the value I will give for D number in the employee table should match with the D number in the any one value of D number. It should match. Okay, it is not that all the values, any one. That means it should be there in the one more relation, that is department. Okay. So next is foreign key. So what is foreign key now? We have seen primary key. Now what is foreign key, students? Okay, foreign key, we'll call it as FK also. We'll denote it using capital FK. So now the condition for a foreign key specify a referential integrity constraint between the two relations schema R1 and R2. Okay, so now whatever the example I have told, it is related to referential integrity constraint only, this foreign key. And super key, candidate key and primary key, it is about one relation. Now foreign key, when I say foreign key, we need to have more than one relation because we are referring one more relation using foreign key. Now D number will become a foreign key because I have D number in both the relations. Okay, got students? Now what is foreign key? Foreign key means both, if I have two relations and I want to refer that those relations using one key, then that particular key is nothing but foreign key. So here D number will uniquely identify using D number. First thing is it should be a primary key. D number should be a primary key in one relation. At least in one relation it should be a primary key, because in department relation D number will uniquely identify each department. At the same time, it will be used to refer the other relation also, employee relation also. So that is foreign key. Okay, got students? So D number will be a foreign key. Okay, so the condition for a foreign key, yeah, that is done. So a set of attributes Fk in the relation schema R1, the set of attributes Fk in the relation schema R1 means relation 1. Now I am talking about two relations. In the first relation is a foreign key of R1 that references relation R2 if it satisfies the following rules. Here we have two rules for that. So when we can refer that, we will see. Okay, using example we have seen all. I have told, but the formal definitions for are there here. So the attributes in Fk have the same domain as the primary key attributes Pk of R2. The attributes Fk are set to reference or refer to the relation R2. That is what D number should be a primary key in one relation. Otherwise, we cannot refer. It should uniquely identify. Okay, so that foreign key will be a primary key in one relation. It can be R1 or R2, and it has to. It should be used to refer the other relation. So next is the value of Fk in a tuple T1 of the current state R1 of R1 either occurs as a value of Pk for some tuple T2, Pk means primary key, in the current state R2 of R2, or is null. Okay, in the former first case, what happens? We have T1 of Fk is equal T2 of Pk. Yeah, T1 of Fk means employee relation. If I take R1 as employee and R2 as department, then T1 of Fk means the tuple of that particular foreign key will be equal to the tuple of primary key. Okay, so and we say that the tuple T1 references or refers to the tuple T2. Okay, if D number is, if I give 1, means D number is primary key in department relation and it is foreign key in what, employee relation. Then if I take department 1 details, then it should match with the whatever the department 1 is there in the employee table. So that is what they want to convey here. So in this definition, R1 is called the referencing relation and R2 is the referenced relation. So R1 means R1 will have the foreign key. Okay, here R1 is nothing but our department. R2 is nothing but our employee. So R2 is reference to relation. Okay. So next, any doubts, students? Is there any doubts?
No, ma'am. Can you have the PPT later on?
Yeah, PPT I will share. Okay. Okay, I'll continue, students. So here, some of the updating operations and dealing with constraints violations we will see. So some of the update operations, we have basically three update operations. Okay. So now we will talking about these operations. Generally we are talking. So after that, when we start SQL, we will use that particular command, insert, delete and all, update and all. Okay. So under update operations, we have insert operation, we have delete operation, and we have modify. See, students, updating means what? If I have 10 tuples in particular table, then if I want to insert one more student's information, then I'm inserting that. It is also a update. If I want to delete, if any student leave the college, then I will delete his information, right? So that is also updation. I'm updating that, means I have deleted, it is up to date now. So modify means, suppose yeah, I told regarding academics, I have one table. So USN student name, semester, that is fourth, and a result of that fourth semester I will put in one table. Then after immediately after the results gets announced, I will put in that particular table. After that, that particular student, one particular student will apply for revaluation. That time the marks will get changed, right? So that time I want to change the value. That's it. I am not deleting or I am not inserting. I'm just changing the existing value. So that is modification, right, students? So these are all updation only, but updation can be a insertion, it can be a deletion, or it can be a modification. Got, students? So this is what the update operations. Okay. So first we will see the insert operation. Okay, while inserting, again we need to follow the constraints. We need to follow the constraints, because we cannot give the invalid values for the particular attributes and all. We have to check. It has to obey the constraints, right? So the insert operation provides a list of attribute values for a new tuple T that is to be inserted into a relation R. Okay. So the insert operation provides a list of attribute, because if I want to insert one record, what is the meaning of that? It need to have, that record needs to have all the attributes. Okay, all the attributes, because now yeah, in this particular semester, Rasil and Ashwin Kumar got they have joined this semester, right? So now I will add their record to the database. That, okay. So that time, if that particular student database contains USN student name and their address, three columns, USN student name and address, then I need to insert all the attribute values, right? I have to give USN, I have to give the name, I have to give the address. Okay, I cannot give one value, and I cannot either I have to give the null value, or else some value I have to give. I cannot give null value for USN. That is one more thing, one more constraint. But at least three values I have to give. It can be null also. Okay, apart from this primary key I'm talking about. It can be null also, but three attribute values I should specify, right, students? So that is what this statement says. It is set of attribute. It is list of attribute values for a new tuple T that is to be inserted into a relation R. Inserting a record means I have to give all the attribute values. So insert can violate any of the four types of constraints. So sometimes it is not that it has to obey all the constraints. In for insertion, only the whatever the constraints for primary key is there. Here no integrity constraints. Here no referential integrity or entity integrity constraints, right? Because I am inserting that particular record into one table. Here, I am not inserting it into more than one table at a time. So it is like it can violate this one referential integrity or entity integrity they are telling. Okay, example is here. See students here. First example I will take. Insert Cecilia. It is the name. Then F, one more attribute value. See students how we will give the in SQL we will use the same method we will use. So here insert is the command, okay, and within triangular brackets, okay, first I will give less than symbol open of that triangular bracket, and after entering all the attributes I will give greater than symbol, okay. So F, then colons key, then null, then some number is there, that is yeah, date it is 1964 5, it is date. Then 6357 Windy Lane, that is the address or street name, or then some values are for there for different attributes. Now into employee means what? I want to insert into some relation. What is the name of that relation? That is employee. Got students? So how what is the format now for insertion? Insert within this angular brackets, I have to give all the values for the of that particular attribute. Then I have to close that angular bracket and I have to mention into that particular relation. Got students? And each value I have to uh, enclose within single quote sometimes. And for null, we are not enclosing it in within single quote because we are not giving any fixed means it is not any character or string. Null is not character or string. It is telling that that value is not applicable for that particular instance, okay, or that particular attribute is not applicable. So next, one more example we have. Insert Alicia, then J, then particular values are there into employee. One more record I am inserting. Okay. So here instead of null for this, I have given number. Means this particular employee will have his phone number. That first employee is not having his phone number. So I will give null. Okay. So if you see here, one more record I am inserting. Okay. You see the format students. That's it. And here one more. So what is the difference here? Here in third example we have given all the values. In second also all the values we have given. Then in fourth last but one, what is the attribute is there, for that we have given null. That's it. Okay. So next is delete operation. Is it clear students? Any issues of listening or this one visibility of the screen? Okay. Only Anvit is responding. All are there, no? All are listening. Hmm? So the delete operation. So delete operation is used to delete the tuples from the relation. So how I can give that example? Delete the works on tuple with ESSN is equal to something and P number is equal to 10. Now, how can I give the command? I can tell the uh, DBMS that I want to delete particular tuple. So how to mention that? I can give its unique identifier. Okay, if I want to delete the information regarding USN1, then if I give USN is equal to that particular value, then it will delete that. Okay, so that is some unique identifier, or it can be a combination of keys as we have seen in super key. Here they have given ESSN and P number also they have given. Okay, so delete the employee tuple with SSN is equal to something. So whatever the with which record this particular SSN will match, that tuple will get deleted. Okay. So delete the employee tuple with SSN is equal to particular value. So whose SSN is the 33344 then double five double five. His tuple will get deleted. Okay. So then the next is update operation. Now update operation means I told modification here. Okay, update is nothing but modification. So update under updation operations we have insert, delete, and update or modify. Okay, so update the salary of the employer because sometime yearly there will be a hike of salary, right? So that time I want to give the new salary. Okay, I want to modify the existing salary. Okay, suppose some particular employee is having 20,000 salary. Okay, next year the if they are raising 8,000 by 8,000, then they will change it as 28,000. Okay, from 20 to 28 they will use, they will change. So how they will identify that by SSN. Okay, they will tell that SSN is equal to 99988 7777. That particular employee's salary I want to change it to 28,000. Whatever the existing salary is there, you that will be deleted and this will be updated. Okay, that current salary will be updated. That is update. Command is update. Okay, the insert, delete, update. These are all updation operations. Okay, update the D number of employee tuple with SSN is equal to now suppose sometimes what happens in company, they will transfer or they will promote sometimes, right? So they will change the department. So for example, some employees working as a technician in the company, suppose after some years of experience they will get promoted, their designation will become engineer. Okay, from technician to engineer. That time it may that his department may also change. Okay, if you think like that, if he's promoting or transferring from one department to another department, then his department will change, then rest of the his details but personal informations will be same. So that time I want to only update his department number. Okay, so that time update the department number of the employee tuple with SSN is equal to particular SSN to 1. Whatever the existing value is there will be updated to 1, means department number 1. So update the department number of employee tuple with SSN to something 7. Okay, so will be updated to 7. One more example we have. Here I am changing the SSN. Here I am changing the SSN, whose SSN is 999887777. Now I want to change his SSN to 9876543221. Okay, so enough for today, students. So then transaction concept, after that relational algebra it will come. Yeah, this I will do in the next class. I hope whatever I have done in this class is clear for you. If any doubt, please ask, students. Or you can do one thing,